Chatbots talk, agents act, and multi-agent systems actually get stuff done. If you've begged a bot to fix Intune and it replied with a poem, this is for you. Here's the deal. Netflix, hands-on. You watch, you eat snacks. I do the dangerous service principle thing so nobody nukes prod. We're building a mini self-healing governed multi-agent system with Azure AI Foundry and Semantic Kernel. Real touchpoints. Intune, Entra, Graph, Azure Automation, Log Analytics. One agent versus multi-agent head-to-head, 12 minutes versus 3, and the only casualty is my subscription credit. First, why one agent stalls while teams fly. Why one agent isn't enough. Single agents are the Swiss Army knife you got at a gas station. Technically, it has tools. Practically, it bends on the first screw. You cram plan, reasoning, execution, approvals, and reporting into one prompt, and now it's context-starved, slow, and weirdly confident about the wrong thing. Most people think bigger model, bigger brain, boom, problem solved. But the real failure is role confusion. One agent trying to plan a change, call graph, write a remediation script, request approval, verify the result, and document it. Is like running a help desk, a change board, and a postmortem with one very tired intern. Here's what actually happens. The single agent juggles too much state. Your prompt becomes a novella. The context window fills with logs, policies, and half the MDM glossary, so it either truncates the important bits or hallucinates missing detail. Latency spikes, tokens burn, and retries feel like déjà vu with a bill. Enter multi-agent, roles, boundaries, parallelism. The planner focuses on intent and constraints. The operator focuses on tools and execution. The reviewer focuses on guardrails, approvals, and are we grounded in facts? Each agent keeps a clean, short instruction set with the minimum memory it needs. They pass messages, tool results, or a short summary, not the entire internet. Why this matters in the enterprise? You need end-to-end workflows with human-in-the-loop gates, identity-scoped actions, retries, and audit trails. That's not a single-threaded chat. That's a team sport. The planner, doer, reviewer pattern reduces risk and rework because every step has a second set of eyes, automated ones that aren't on hour 11 of a quick Teams meeting. Cost and latency win too. Use small language models for extraction and classification. Use premium reasoning models only where planning actually helps. Batch jobs for summaries while users sleep. You'll get fewer hallucinations, faster results, and lower bills. Microstory. I saw one bot to do everything, try to rotate a secret. It updated the key, forgot the app setting, and fixed it by deleting the resource. That was the day we invented the reviewer agent. Multi-agent systems 101, clear, simple. Okay, so what is a multi-agent system you can actually ship? Think digital team, not one big brain. Each agent has a role, a tight instruction set, and a limited toolbox. Planner understands the goal, constraints, and environment. Produces a plan with tool calls the operator can execute. Operator calls tools, graph, logic apps, functions, Azure Automation runbooks, and returns structured results. Reviewer checks groundedness, compliance scope, approvals, and safety outputs before anything risky happens. Messenger concierge handles human notifications, approvals, and summaries for the audit trail. They communicate through messages and shared context the way grown-ups should, short, clear, and only what's needed. Sequential when actions depend on previous results, parallel when subtasks can fan out safely. You don't send a 50-page policy, you send the relevant snippet, the device IDs, and the intended change. Tools are the hands. REST APIs for Microsoft Graph. RAG via Azure AI search for curated knowledge. Code interpreter for snippets. Logic apps for orchestrated sequences. Functions for glue. Azure Automation for repeatable device tasks. Keep tool inputs structured with schemas so the operator can't creatively delete your tenant. Memory is not magic, it's a budget. Minimize per agent memory. Use external state, search indexes, vector stores, or a small state store for thread metadata. Keep context windows lean. If it's not needed for the next decision, it doesn't ride along. Planning versus execution is where semantic kernel shines. The planner delegates, the operator picks the right tool with function catalogs. The reviewer critiques outputs with evaluation prompts and content safety. If the reviewer flags a scope risk, the planner revises. Once you understand this loop, you stop writing 800-word prompts and start wiring clear roles. Safety boundaries are non-negotiable. Identity-scoped tool calls with managed identities. Per agent permissions split between read and manage. PM for elevation on destructive actions. All tool calls logged to log analytics, content safety on both input and output, prompt shields for jailbreaks, and indirect prompt injection from knowledge sources. Analogy time, researcher, analyst, operator, QA. Each is accountable for their part. The operator doesn't approve their own change. The analyst doesn't mess with production. The QA doesn't write the code they're approving. Simple, boring, safe. Why Azure AI Foundry plus Semantic Kernel? Foundry gives you agent orchestration, model choices, knowledge grounding, tool wiring, content safety, tracing, evaluations, and governance in one place. Semantic Kernel gives you planners, skills, pipelines, retries, and cancellation in code. Together, you mix models per role, SLMs for extraction, GPT-4 class for planning, batch for summaries, and you keep your prompts short, your blast radius small, and your weekends yours. Now let's build the thing. How Azure AI Foundry enables multi-agent workflows. Here's where Azure AI Foundry stops being a glossy portal and starts acting like a production shop. Foundry gives you places to define agents, connect models, add knowledge, wire actions, and observe everything without living in 6 different blades and a wish. It's orchestration without duct tape. Start with agent definitions. In Foundry, each agent gets instructions, tight role guidance, not a manifesto. Deployment, the actual model behind it, mix GPT-4 class for planning with Phi class SLMs for extraction. Knowledge, Azure AI search indexes, uploaded files, or Bing grounding when you want web context. Actions, open API tools, logic apps, functions, graph, Azure automation runbooks, or code interpreter for quick math and parsing. Connected agents, yes, an agent can treat another agent like a tool if that keeps the roles clean. Now, this is important because Semantic Kernel plugs into that same universe. In code, you build planners, define skills, and register tools in function catalogs. You choreograph the planner, operator, reviewer loop, and let Foundry handle the threads, history, and safety rails. You keep prompts short and put the heavy lifting in tools with schemas. Translation, fewer hallucinations, fewer oops, more weekend, model choices matter. Foundry abstracts inference through the model endpoint so you can swap models without rewriting your whole app. 2 common lanes, serverless endpoints for premium models and quick iteration. You pay per token, scale on demand, and don't babysit GPUs like it's 2018. Managed compute for specific open models you want pinned to your tenant boundary. You pay by uptime and control the shape, but Microsoft handles the deployment plumbing. Mix models per role. Planner on GPT-4o or 4.1 mini for reasoning. Operator on a small model that excels at extraction and parameter shaping. Batch your long summaries overnight so humans get glossy reports by morning. And if a model retires or you want to try DeepSeek or Llama variants, Foundry's Inference API lets you keep your code steady while you experiment. Tools and actions are where the operator earns its badge. This is where you bring real power without giving the agent keys to your kingdom. Open API tools for internal services with Swagger. Keep the contracts strict. If the schema says device id string, it better be a device ID. Logic apps for approval flows and human gates. Let the reviewer route changes to a change approver, then resume execution on yes. Azure Functions for glue code and sane transformations. Small testable versioned graph API for Intune, Entra, and user device conditional access tasks. Give read scopes to monitor agents, manage scopes only to remediators. Azure automation for device scripts and runbooks. Treat it like sharp objects in a locked drawer. Only the fixer agent can open it. RAG grounding, keep it curated. Use Azure AI search with hybrid ranking and semantic re-ranking. Shard knowledge by domain. Intune policies separate from onboarding SOPs, so you don't ship the kitchen sink. The operator should pass a snippet, not the encyclopedia. Size your chunks, store citations, and have the reviewer check groundedness before it touches production. Safety is not optional. Foundry bakes in content safety filters for input and output, prompt shields for jailbreak and indirect injection, plus protected material checks. Run safety pre-model and post-model so you don't pay for bad inputs or output PR disasters. Pair that with managed identity per agent, least privilege RBAC, and PM for temporary elevation on destructive tools. Every tool call gets traced, every approval gets logged. If someone asks who ran what, you don't open Outlook. Log Analytics already knows. Observability is grown-up mode. Turn on tracing so you can see run history, which agent called which tool, with what parameters, at what latency, and what came back. Wire application insights for performance patterns, app logs for audit, and ship evaluations into CI to catch drift in relevance, groundedness, and fluency before a user does. If groundedness drops, the reviewer flags it, the planner narrows the retrieval query, and the operator tries again. No human panic required. Deployment primitives keep it tidy. Use Foundry projects for team scope, quotas, and policy baselines. Put Azure API management in front of your tool surface so you can version, throttle, implement circuit breakers, and route between PTU and pay-as-you-go inference. Private endpoints where data residency or compliance says we're serious. Regions that match your users, not just your aspirations. And yes, Semantic Kernel ties the bow. You describe the workflow in code. The planner decomposes, the operator chooses tools based on function catalogs and availability. The reviewer enforces checks with evaluation prompts and content safety outcomes. And you get retries with back-off and cancellation tokens when an external API pretends to be down for maintenance. SK gives you the execution brain, Foundry gives you the operating theater. Put it together and you've got a practical pattern. Define agents in Foundry with strict instructions and identities, orchestrate roles in SK, ground with curated search, wire actions with open APIs, logic apps, functions, automation, enforce safety before and after inference, and observe everything. It's boring in the best way, like seatbelts, or backups, or not giving global admin to the intern named default key, demo scenario 1, device cleanup, CSI Intune, ghost device unit. You know those devices that show up as managed, retired, and undead at the same time? Welcome to CSI Intune. Our job: find stale, duplicate, or unenrolled hardware and remediate safely with approvals so nobody rage emails legal. Cast of agents. Monitor, queries, Microsoft Graph and Log Analytics, classifies device states, flags anomalies. Remediator calls Intune and Azure automation to quarantine or retire devices. Auditor logs everything, notifies humans, and writes the after-action novella for compliance. The flow runs like this. Monitor pulls from graph device records, last check-in, compliance state, enrollment type, primary user, and retirement flags. It also grabs log analytics signals, Defender heartbeat, update compliance, and Intune management extension events. It fuses those into a short, structured record per device. Last seen UTC enrolled, compliant, duplicate candidates, risk signals. No novels, just fields. Now the brains to brawn handoff. Monitor sends a proposed classification. Stale, duplicate, no heartbeat, or fine. Reviewer checks groundedness. Did these fields actually come from Graph and LA? Content safety runs pre-model to block prompt injection from any uploaded file or web grounding. If classification passes, Remediator prepares actions. Phase 1 is soft remediation, tag and quarantine. We apply a candidate for retire device category, remove dynamic group bindings that trigger policy sprawl, and if needed, move the device into a quarantine Azure AD group that blocks access. No deletes yet. Approvals land in a logic app. The reviewer includes a compact plan, device aids, reasons, proposed actions, rollback. The approver sees a digest in Teams with citations to graph queries and log analytics KQL. Approve sends a token back, Remediator executes, retire, wipe, when justified, or clean duplicates by keeping the device with the freshest heartbeat and unlinking ghosts. Managed identity keeps our hands clean. Monitor runs with device, read all. Remediator uses a separate identity with device, read, write, all, and exactly the Intune permissions it needs. Delete is behind PIM, the Remediator agent can't elevate itself. When elevation is requested, the logic app requires a human, and the clock starts ticking on that temporary permission. Observability is the grown-up part. Every tool call is traced. Who called what, parameters, latency, response. Auditor writes event records to log analytics with correlation IDs so you can reconstruct the crime scene without Slack archaeology. We also run an evaluation step, post-change, groundedness, relevance, fluency. If groundedness drops, the reviewer blocks further destructive actions and kicks the plan back to the planner to refine retrieval or narrow scope. Models are mixed intentionally. Classification uses a small model to keep cost and latency low. Edge cases, like two devices where Autopilot renamed one and Azure AD thinks they're twins, get a reasoning pass with GPT-4o Mini. Summaries are batched. Nobody needs a Shakespearean report at 2 p.m. microstory. Last week, the single agent test tried to fix a stale device by retiring everything in the same dynamic group. The reviewer in our multi-agent flow flagged the scope mismatch, asked for device-level confirmation, and stopped it. That's why we separate plan, act, and check. End result: ghost devices stop haunting compliance. You reduce license waste, cut false positives, and stop explaining to leadership why retired failed is a lifestyle. And yes, the audit trail is readable, which is more than I can say for half your change tickets. Demo scenario 2, zero-touch onboarding. Actually zero touch. Zero touch for the user, 500 touches for engineering, until agents. Goal: from an HR event to a ready user and device without swivel chair. Smooth, governed, and reversible when HR spells a last name 3 different ways. Team lineup. Intake: listens to the HR webhook, normalizes payloads, and validates required fields. Provisioner creates the user in Entra, assigns groups and licenses, registers Autopilot profiles. Validator checks policy compliance and conditional access posture before we hand over a shiny laptop. Concierge sends the welcome pack, SharePoint links, and your first day checklist. Flow time. Intake gets the HR payload, name, start date, role, department, manager, region. Small model extracts and normalizes. It maps to canonical fields and catches nonsense like a start date in 2099. If required fields are missing, it pings HR with a structured error via logic apps, no freeform poetry. Provisioner calls graph with a managed identity scoped to user right. It creates the Entra user, sets usage location, and applies a base group. Then it assembles license assignments based on role and region. Reasoning helps here. Does this person need E5 security or business premium? We encode policy in data and let the model pick from allowed bundles. No model gets to invent licenses. It's a strict menu. Autopilot comes next. Provisioner either registers a hardware hash we already have or prepares a just-in-time profile tied to the user's group. It tags the device groups for baseline policies. Then validator wakes up. It queries Graph and Defender for compliance signals, verifies conditional access won't break first sign-in, and checks that the right device configuration policies will apply. If conditional access would block the new hire on day one, validator opens an approval with a time-bound exception and the rationale. Concierge handles the human stuff. It posts a Teams message to the manager with the new hire's UPN, device assignment status, and a link to a SharePoint starter kit. It emails the new hire with first day steps, MFA setup guidance, and where to find the IT portal. It does not paste your internal IP ranges into the email. Content safety checks outputs for leakage and tone. Governance is the same seatbelt theme. Provisioner's managed identity has license, write but no delete. Intake can't provision, it only validates. PM gates any high-risk actions, like adding users to a sensitive group. All actions trace into app insights and log analytics. If HR sends a corrected payload, the planner recalculates the delta, and the operator updates only what changed. No yo-yoing group memberships. Observability gives you milestones. HR ingest, Entra create, license assignment, autopilot profile, compliance verdict, notification sent. You get SLA metrics and automatic retries on transient graph errors with backoff. If the HR system burps, the thread doesn't die. It pauses, logs, and resumes when fixed. Evaluations run in CI on synthetic onboarding payloads to catch regressions in relevance and groundedness before a real hire suffers. Model mix keeps the bill sane, SLM for extraction and normalization. A reasoning pass only on policy selection decisions. Summaries and welcome emails batch when possible. The target is low latency provisioning with human-grade clarity in the audit trail. Quick story. Single agent onboarding tried to add a user to all staff and contractors because the title said contractor staff. Multi-agent caught the mutual exclusivity rule in validator, asked for a human decision, and avoided an immediate toaster fire in conditional access. Outcome truly zero touch for the user. One thread, 4 agents, clean approvals, and a paper trail you can show your CISO without praying to the demo gods. And yes, when HR inevitably changes the start date, the system recalculates without torching the license budget. Demo scenario 3. Automated security hardening. Please let BitLocker be on. Security drift is like weeds. You pull 3-5 pop-up and one of them disables BitLocker out of spite. Our goal? Detect config drift continuously and remediate safely with gates a lawyer would respect. Cast drift detector. Queries, graph and defender. Secure score. Pulls Intune compliance and device config baselines and builds a drift delta. Fixer. Pushes Intune policy changes, BitLocker settings and Windows update rings. Runs device scripts via Azure automation when policy can't reach far enough. Reviewer enforces guardrails, scopes changes, runs groundedness checks, and routes human approvals for risky steps. Messenger nudges humans in Teams or email with compact plans and receipts. Flow drift detector runs on a schedule and on demand. It pulls device compliance, BitLocker status, TPM status, OS version, update ring, and policy assignments via graph. It compares each device against a golden profile stored as structured data, not a vibes document. It tags findings: missing BitLocker, weak encryption method, policy not applied, secure boot off, update ring out of bounds, planner pass kicks in, propose a minimal plan per device group. For BitLocker, use Intune BitLocker policy if the device is capable. If policy is already targeted but the status is off, propose an automation script to re-kick protectors and escrow the key to Azure AD. For update drift, propose moving the device to a staged update ring, not patch now hope. For conditional access snafus, propose a time-bound exception with required justification. Reviewer evaluates groundedness. Did drift detector actually cite the fields from graph and defender? It checks scope, device IDs, policy IDs, change type. If anything smells like all devices, it gets blocked with prejudice. Content safety is on input and output to prevent prompt injection from any external knowledge or pasted logs. High-risk actions like removing a conflicting local policy get PM-gated. The fixer's identity can't self-elevate. Approval lives in a logic app with a tidy card. What's wrong? What will change? Rollback steps and citations. Approve and fixer executes. Intune policy updates are idempotent and targeted. BitLocker fix uses a runbook with explicit parameters and a sanity check. TPM present. OS supports XTS AS256 escrow path verified. If any pre-check fails, it bails with a human-friendly error and no side effects. Messenger closes the loop. Device is fixed. A digest hits Teams with counts, links to app insights traces, and a CSV for the person who still loves Excel more than their family. If a device refused to comply, reviewer opens an exception thread with a clock and retries scheduled. Observability: every tool, call traced, correlated by thread. We log deltas before and after so audit can see non-compliant, compliant without camping in KQL. We also run an evaluation agent on post-change summaries to check groundedness and clarity. If groundedness drops or failure rates spike, planner narrows retrieval, reduces batch size, or pauses destructive actions. Model mix: SLM for extraction and classification, reasoning model for plan synthesis only when needed, batch the nightly report. No sonnets about AES. End result: BitLocker is actually on, update rings drift less, exceptions are documented, time-bound and reviewable. And nobody fixes a device by reimaging finance laptops during quarter close. Architecture breakdown: Foundry plus SK plus tools plus identity. Let's open the hood without spilling engine oil on your quota. Think 4 layers that keep this sane: Foundry, Semantic Kernel, tools, identity. Foundry is home base. You define agents with strict instructions, pick deployments per role, attach knowledge via Azure AI search, and register actions. Open API tools, logic apps, functions, graph, Azure automation, code interpreter. Threads: run history, tracing, evaluations, and safety live here. Content safety, prompt shields, and protected material checks run pre- and post-models so bad inputs don't cost tokens and bad outputs don't cost jobs. Semantic kernel is the conductor. In code, you wire the planner, operator, reviewer loop. You register function catalogs for tools, set retry, back off, and add cancellation tokens. You keep prompts short, push complexity into schemas, and let SK decide which tool to call based on availability and policy. If graph times out, SK retries with jitter. If groundedness dips, it routes back to the planner to refine. Tools are the hands. Keep contracts strict with Open API. Put API management in front to throttle version and circuit break. Logic apps handle approvals and long-running flows. Functions do glue and transformation. Azure automation executes scripts with guardrails and post checks. Graph is your source of truth for Intune, Entra, compliance, and secure score. Azure AI search serves curated knowledge per domain, no knowledge soup. Identity is the seatbelt. Each agent has its own managed identity. Monitor agents get red scopes. Remediators get write scopes, never admin. PM gates anything destructive. Elevation requires a human and expires. Private endpoints, where data boundaries matter. Policy baselines on Foundry projects enforce allowed models, regions, and quotas. App insights and log analytics collect traces, metrics, and audits so you can answer who did what without Slack archaeology. Models plug in through Foundry's inference endpoint. Use serverless for premium reasoning, manage compute for pinned open models. Swap models without rewriting code, but still evaluate relevance, groundedness, and fluency in CI before promoting. Regions match your users, data zones match your regulators. Put together, it's a boring, reliable machine. Agents defined in Foundry, orchestrated by SK, powered by strict tools, locked down by identity, measured by observability, and guarded by safety. Boring wins. Boring scales. Boring lets you sleep. Best practices: ship without regret. Okay? Build time wisdom so you don't spend Sunday undoing Saturday. Give each agent one job. Planner plans. Operator operates. Reviewer reviews. If an agent starts writing a heartfelt novel, cut its prompt and give the prose to a tool. Keep instructions short, scoped, and boring. You'll get fewer surprises. Prefer tool calls over long prose. Put contracts in Open API, schemas on inputs, and guardrails on outputs. If a tool expects device id, send a device id, not maybe this device in finance. Models are creative, tools are not. That's the point. Enforce least privilege like your job depends on it, because it does. Separate identities, read only for monitor, write only for remediator, and no identity has delete without PM. Elevation is temporary, justified, and logged. If someone asks for permanent global admin, hand them a stress ball and a policy doc. Start small, 2 agents, doer and checker. Add a planner once the loop is stable. Then if you must fan out, don't start with a digital scrum team of 12. That's how you recreate your org chart in YAML and Cry. Mix models to cut cost. SLMs for extraction, GPT-4 class only for reasoning where it matters, batch summaries overnight. You're not paying premium rates to format a date string. Save the heavy model for decisions, not narration. Add memory last. Use external state, Azure AI search or a small state store, before you start stuffing context windows like a carry-on bag. Thread metadata should be tiny. If it's not needed for the next turn, it doesn't go. Log everything, turn on tracing, thread IDs, tool parameters, latency results, ship evaluations into CI so you catch relevance and groundedness drops before production does. Alert when groundedness dips, not when Twitter does. Guardrails before speed, approvals for destructive tools, dry run mode with no side effects. Staged rollouts by device, group, or region. If your rollout plan is all at once, I hope your resume is updated. Build for failure, retrace with jitter, back off on graph throttling, circuit breakers and API management, idempotent runbooks. If a step can be rerun safely, you sleep better. Finally, document your policies as data. Mutual exclusivity rules, license bundles, device baselines, put them in structured form. Models can select, they shouldn't invent. That's how you keep agents helpful and your blast radius small. If you remember one thing, single agents help, but teams of agents, planned, tool-driven, and permission-scoped, quietly transform your environment while you pretend to sleep. If this hit home, subscribe and watch the follow-up where I drop the semantic kernel repo and the bicep template so you can steal shamelessly. Want the evaluation agents episode that keeps your prompts honest? It's queued up next. Click it.